The arrow hit the fence post 6 inches from Cole Harlan's left ear before he even heard the bowstring sing. He dropped behind the water trough without thinking. His rifle was inside the barn. His pistol was on his hip, and he had 4 rounds in it because he'd fired 2 at a coyote that morning and hadn't reloaded. Stupid. The kind of stupid that gets a man buried. The ranch sat in a wide bowl of red dust in southern Arizona Territory, 1879. The nearest town was Ridgeback, 11 miles east on a road that turned to nothing when it rained. Cole had bought this land 3 years ago with money he'd earned the hard way. The house was small. The cattle were few. The life was his and nobody else's, and that was exactly how he wanted it. Another arrow hit the trough. He counted. 2 shots from different angles, on either one shooter moving fast or 2 shooters working together. He looked at the gap under the trough and saw boots. 1 pair, moving from the barn toward the main gate. 1 shooter. Fast, Cole came up firing. The first round kicked dirt near the boots. The second round was closer. The boots stopped moving. He heard breathing. Hard, controlled breathing. Not a man's. He knew the difference. He moved left along the fence, keeping low. The sun was going down behind the mesa, and the light was turning amber and flat. Hard to see in. Harder to shoot in. "I know you're behind the gate post," he said. "Nothing. I've got 2 rounds left and I'm not a poor shot." Still nothing. Then a voice. Low, clear, and carrying the particular hardness of someone who has learned English from enemies. "And I have 6 arrows left, and I have not missed anything I intended to hit today." Cole stopped moving. "That first one was 6 inches from my head. I intended it to be 6 inches from your head." He thought about that. He stood up slowly, keeping the pistol out, but pointed down. He walked to the gate. She was pressed against the post with a short bow in her left hand, and her right hand empty and flat against her thigh. Apache, by the pattern work on her leggings and the cut of her hair. Mid-30s, maybe. A bruise along her jaw that was 2 or 3 days old. A cut above her right eyebrow that had been closed with some kind of plant resin. She'd been riding hard. Her horse was ground-tied 20 yards back, lathered and head down. Cole looked at her for a long moment. She looked back without flinching. "You shot at my fence post," he said. "I needed you to stop moving and listen. You could have knocked." Something moved across her face that was not quite a smile and not quite contempt, and was actually somewhere between the two. "Men who look like you don't open doors for women who look like me." That was probably true. He didn't say so. "What do you want?" he asked. "Your barn," she said. "One night. I will be gone before your sunrise." Cole looked at her horse, looked at the cut above her eye, looked at the direction she'd come from, which was west, which was toward the Carrasco Range, which was where 3 men had been found dead last week, with their cattle stolen and their ranch houses burned. He'd heard it in Ridgeback. The sheriff was blaming Apache raiders. The territory papers were calling for a military response. "Is who's following you?" he said. Her jaw tightened. Men who should not be following anyone anymore. "How many?" 4, maybe 3 now. She said it the way you say a fact about weather. Not proud, not sorry, just accurate. Cole put his pistol back in its holster. "Barn's open. There's a water barrel inside and grain for the horse. Don't touch my tools." She walked past him without another word. He stood at the gate for a while, watching the western dark fill up the gaps between the mesa ridges. 4 men, maybe 3, coming this way before morning. He went inside and reloaded his pistol, and then loaded his rifle too and set them both beside the door. In the barn, through the wall, he could hear her speaking to her horse in a language he didn't understand. The horse made a low sound in its throat. That's the kind of sound horses make when they finally feel safe. Cole sat at his table and ate cold beans out of the pan he'd made them in that morning, and tried to think clearly about his situation. A woman he didn't know was in his barn. She had shot at him with a bow and asked for shelter, and there were men coming who she had already started reducing in number. The sheriff in Ridgeback was looking for Apache raiders, and Cole, by every measure of his current position, was going to be sitting between all of it before the sun came up. He ate the last of the beans. Somewhere in the mesa, a coyote started talking to the moon. He blew out the lamp and sat in the dark, with his rifle across his knees and his back against the wall, where nobody coming through the door would see him right away. He did not sleep. At some point past midnight, when the barn door opened a crack and her voice came through the dark, flat and quiet. "There are 2 of them on the North Ridge," she said. "They are not Apache." "I know," Cole said. A silence. "You knew already?" "I've been hearing their horses for 20 minutes. Shod horses. Yours isn't shod." Another silence, longer. "The other 2 went around," she said. "They will come from the dry creek bed to the south." "I know that too." The barn door closed. Cole shifted his grip on the rifle. 4 men. Now confirmed 2 and 2. South and north. Coordinated. This wasn't raiders. This was a hunting party with a specific target, and she was the target. And they had tracked her here, which made Cole part of this, whether he had agreed to it or not. He had agreed to it. He understood that now. When he'd opened that gate, he'd made a choice. He just hadn't named it yet. Outside, the coyote went quiet. That was the real signal. Cole stood up and moved to the window. The first one came from the south, the way she said he would. He came through the dry creek bed on foot, leading his horse by the reins, moving in the kind of crouch that men use when they think darkness makes them invisible. Cole watched him cross 40 yards of open ground between the creek and the south fence. The man had a rifle across his back and a revolver on each hip, dressed like a ranch hand. Not Apache. White man or mestizo, hard to tell at distance in the dark. Cole did not shoot him. Not yet. He watched the man reach the south fence and start working at the wire. Careful. Quiet. This wasn't someone acting in anger. This was practiced. Deliberate. Behind Cole, the barn door opened again. She moved without sound across the yard, staying low, keeping to the shadow of the fence line. She had the bow. Cole noticed she'd wrapped something around her boots, rags or leather strips, to muffle the footfall. The man at the south fence got the wire loose and started through. Cole opened the front door of the house and stepped onto the porch with his rifle up. "Stop right there," he said. The man froze. "Hands where I can see them." The man's hands came up slow. Too slow. The kind of slow that's buying time while someone else moves. Cole heard the other one from the north before he saw him, coming over the fence on the far side of the barn, which meant they'd mapped the property before tonight. They'd been here before, in daylight, looking. The thought settled in Cole's chest like a cold stone. "Tell your friend on the north side to stop moving," Cole said to the man at the south fence. "Don't know what you mean," the man said. An arrow went through the north fence post with a sound like a hand clap. The man at the north side made a short noise and went down behind the water trough. Not hit. Close enough that he'd moved without thinking. "That was a warning," Cole said. "Next one, your friend picks himself." The man at the south fence lowered his hand slightly. "You got no idea what you've gotten into, rancher." "I'm starting to get an idea," Cole said. "Who sent you?" "Put the rifle down and we can talk about this like reasonable people." I prefer talking like unreasonable people with my rifle up, Cole said. Who sent you? The man at the south fence turned his head slightly, looking for the woman. She wasn't where she'd been. Cole had been tracking her in his peripheral vision, and she was gone, which was either very good or something else entirely. She killed 2 men, the south fence man said. The law's looking for her. Which law? The man didn't answer. Because the sheriff of Ridgeback doesn't operate in this county, Cole said, and I haven't seen a marshal's badge on anybody tonight. So, whose law exactly? The north side man shifted behind the trough. Cole fired once into the dirt 2 feet from the trough. Stay still. The south fence man took 1 step back. Don't, Cole said. The man stopped. Somewhere in the dark behind the barn, there was a sound. Brief, a scuffle, and then nothing. Then nothing for a long time. Cole kept the rifle on the south fence man. The north man stayed behind the trough. The night held its breath. She walked out of the dark from behind the barn and crossed the yard without hurrying. She stopped next to Cole's porch steps and looked at the south fence man with an expression that was not readable from the outside. The other 2 will not be coming, she said. The south fence man stared at her. Cole stared at her too for just a moment, then put his eyes back on the south fence man. Your choice, Cole said to him. Ride out now or don't. The man took another step back through the gap in the fence, then another. He reached his horse, mounted. Cole watched him ride west until the dark swallowed him completely. He turned to the man behind the water trough. You too. The north man stood up. He was younger than Cole expected. 20 maybe. Scared in the way young men get when the plan stops working. He walked to the gate with his hands still visible and found his horse tied to the post and rode after his partner without looking back. Cole lowered the rifle. He stood on the porch, and the night was quiet now, except for the dry wind coming off the mesa. She was still standing at the foot of the porch steps. 2, he said. Yes. They were going to kill you. Yes. Want to tell me why? She looked at him for a long moment, not deciding whether to trust him, doing something more careful than that, measuring what the truth would cost and what the lie would cost and which debt she could actually pay. My husband, she said. He knew something. They killed him for it. I was there. She paused. I am what is left of what he knew. Cole sat down on the porch step. His knees were tired. He hadn't noticed until now. And who was your husband? Nando walks slow, she said. You would not know him. I know the name, Cole said. She went very still. He came through here 2 years ago, Cole said. Traded me 2 horses for a winter's worth of grain. Fair man, talk straight. He looked up at her. I heard he died. I didn't know how. The thing that moved across her face then had no name he could give it. It wasn't grief, because grief was soft, and this wasn't soft. It was the face of someone who has held something very heavy for a very long time, and has just been told by a stranger that the weight was real. He was a fair man, she said quietly. Yes, Cole said. He was. The wind moved through the yard. The horses in the barn shifted. You should sleep, Cole said. They'll be back. Not those 2 boys. Whoever sent them. She nodded once. I know. In the morning, you'll tell me what Nando knew. It wasn't a question. She heard that. In the morning, she said. She walked back to the barn. The door closed. Cole sat on the porch with his rifle and watched the western dark for the rest of the night, and it did not give up any of its secrets, and neither did he. Her name was Della. She did not offer it. Cole found it on a folded piece of paper she kept in a leather case tied to her saddle, next to a rough map drawn in charcoal on the back of a calendar page. He didn't read the map. He'd looked at the paper only to know what to call her, because calling someone woman for 3 days while riding through hard country was no way to operate. They rode east at first light, not toward Ridgeback, toward the broken hill country north of it, where the land went red and crooked, and a man could lose himself inside a single canyon for 3 days if he didn't know the branching. Della knew the branching. Cole followed her and kept his eyes moving and his mouth mostly shut. She rode the way people ride when they've been riding since before they were tall enough to mount without help. Her horse had recovered. Its ears were forward and its stride was even, and it moved like it trusted the ground she chose for it. They stopped at midday in a hollow where a seep of water came up through limestone and collected in a shallow basin the size of a wagon wheel. They let the horses drink. "The map," Della said. She didn't take it out. She just looked at the saddlebag where it was. Nando made it 6 months before they killed him. Honey spent 2 years finding what's on it. "What's on it?" Cole said. "Names," she said. "Places. Dates." She looked at him. "There is a man named Grover Pell?" Cole knew the name. Everyone in the territory knew the name. Grover Pell ran a land company out of Tucson, had the ear of the territorial governor, owned 11,000 acres legally, and was in the process of acquiring more. Nando found the ones he acquired illegally, Della said. 6 Apache land grants, 3 Mexican land titles, 2 homestead claims, all gone. The people on them gone before them. She paused. Not sold, not bought, gone. Cole was quiet for a moment. "That's not a land dispute. That's 11 families." 17, she said. "Some of them had children." The seep water made a small sound in the basin. The horses finished drinking and stood easy. "The men last night," Cole said. "Pells," she said. "Not his personal men. Hired. He has a man who hires. His name is Cutter Doyle. You will know him when you see him because his left hand has only 2 fingers, and he carries the missing ones in a tobacco pouch for reasons I have not been able to understand." "Where's the map going?" Cole said. "Who were you taking it to?" "A man in Ridgeback," she said. "A federal surveyor named Al Briggs. He has been writing letters to Washington for 2 years about irregularities in Pell's land filings. Nobody has listened." She looked at Cole. "I thought if he had Nando's map to go with the letters, someone might listen." "Briggs," Cole said. He knew the name in the way you know the name of a man who gets talked about more than he's seen. "He's still alive?" "As of 4 days ago," she said. "I do not know about today." Cole pulled his canteen and drank. Thought about Grover Pell sitting in his Tucson office with his political connections and his hired men and 17 families worth of blood on papers that all looked legal from the outside. "Why didn't you go around to Ridgeback the easy way?" he said. "Cutter Doyle was at the southern road," she said. "I saw him 2 miles out and turned north." A pause. "Which is how I ended up at your fence line." 6 inches from my ear, Cole said. "I told you. I do not miss what I intend." Cole looked at her. The bruise on her jaw had gone yellow at the edges, which meant it was healing. The cut above her eye was clean. She was watching the ridge line above the hollow with the same steady attention she'd given everything since he'd met her. "Now, how long have you been running?" he said. 11 days. 11 days alone in this country with men behind her and a dead husband's map in her saddlebag and a mission that nobody had asked her to carry except the fact of being the only one left to carry it. Cole put the canteen back. "I know another way into Ridgeback," he said. "East Canyon comes out behind the feed store. Doyle won't know it unless someone told him, and nobody in that town would tell Pell's man anything useful because Pell's been trying to buy out 3 families there for 2 years, and they hate him. Della looked at him for a moment. The measuring look again. Except this time, it had something different in it. Not softness, not relief. Something more like one person recognizing another person across a considerable distance. "No, you do not have to do this," she said. "No," Cole agreed. "You will make an enemy of Grover Pell." "I'll add him to the list," Cole said. She almost smiled. It was the closest thing to a smile he'd seen from her, and it lasted about as long as heat lightning. They mounted and rode. The canyon Cole knew was a dry cut through limestone that wound east for 4 miles before opening up behind the back lots of Ridgeback. The walls were high enough that you couldn't see in from the ridge above, and the floor was stone, which meant no tracks. Della noted this without saying anything, but he saw her shoulders drop a fraction of an inch. He told himself that was the horse settling. He knew it wasn't. They were 2 miles into the canyon when Della pulled up. Cole stopped beside her. She was looking at the canyon wall to the left. He had a dark line across the pale limestone, chest height on a standing man. It was soot, old fire, and above it, cut into the rock with something sharp, the outline of a hand. "Nando was here," she said. Cole looked at the hand. Simple lines. A man's hand by the size. No paint, just the cut of it. "He marked the route," Cole said. "Yes." Her voice was level. He was planning this before they found out about him. Cole understood then that Nando walked slow, had known he was going to die. Had laid the root in the stone anyway. For her. For whoever came after. He didn't say anything. Nothing was adequate. They rode on. Ridgeback came up out of the canyon mouth, brown and weathered, and smelling of horses and fresh bread from the baker on the main street, who started at 4 in the morning. Late afternoon light hit the windows of the saloon and threw orange squares into the dust. Cole kept them to the back alleys. The feed store was where he said it would be. Behind it, a small house with a surveyor's transit on the porch and a man sitting next to it in a chair, reading with the specific stillness of a man who has learned to look like he's doing nothing while actually watching everything. Al Briggs was small, dusty, and wore spectacles that sat crooked on his nose. He looked up when they rounded the corner, and his face went through several calculations very fast. "Cole Harlan," he said. "I heard you bought the Cantera place." 3 years ago," Cole said. Briggs looked at Della, looked at the saddlebag, looked back at Della's face. His expression settled. "You're Nando's wife," he said. "Yes," Della said. Briggs took his spectacles off and cleaned them on his shirt. It was the gesture of a man buying himself 2 seconds to feel something before he had to go back to being practical. "Come inside," he said. "Both of you." They went inside. Della took the map from the saddlebag and unfolded it on Briggs's table, and Briggs put his spectacles back on and leaned over it and went very still. "Lord Almighty," he said quietly. Outside, the town of Ridgeback went about its afternoon business. Horses at the rail, voices from the saloon, a child somewhere laughing. Inside, 3 people stood around a table and looked at what a dead man had spent 2 years building and understood that they were now responsible for it. Cole looked at the door, then at the window. Old habit. "How fast can you get this to Washington?" he said to Briggs. "On telegraph tonight," Briggs said. "The document itself by rider to Tucson and then rail. 4 days." "Can you keep her safe for 4 days?" Cole said. Briggs looked at him, then at Della. "Can she keep herself safe for 4 days?" Better than you, Cole said honestly. Della said nothing. It was the kind of nothing that agreed with everything. Cutter Doyle came to Ridgeback on the third morning. Cole saw him before Doyle saw him, which was the only advantage worth having in that situation. Doyle rode down the main street on a gray horse with 3 men behind him, and he rode the way men ride when they own something they haven't paid for yet. Slow, looking. The kind of man who counts windows, measures alleys, and notes which horses are tied where. Cole was in the feed store buying grain he didn't need. He watched through the window. Doyle's left hand rested on the saddle horn, 2 fingers and a thumb. The rest of the hand just ended. Cole had seen worse injuries. It was the tobacco pouch on Doyle's belt that settled the identification, a small brown square of leather worn shiny from handling. Della's description had been exact. Cole paid for the grain and carried it out the back and left it against the wall and went to find Briggs. Briggs was in his house with the curtains 3/4 drawn, writing in a ledger with the concentration of a man who has decided that ordinary tasks are the best disguise. "Doyle's here," Cole said. Briggs kept writing. "I know. My neighbor's boy came to tell me 10 minutes ago." He turned a page. "The telegraph was sent 2 nights ago. I had a reply this morning." He looked up. "There is a federal marshal coming from Santa Fe. 2 days out." 2 days is a long time with Doyle in town, Cole said. "Yes," Briggs said. Cole sat down in the spare chair by the door. "Where's Della?" "She left before sunrise," Briggs said. "She said to tell you she was not going to sit in a house for 2 days." Cole absorbed that. "Direction?" "She didn't say." Cole thought about Della on her recovered horse somewhere in the country around Ridgeback, moving, watching, operating. He thought about what 11 days alone in that country had made of her before he'd ever appeared in the picture. He stopped worrying about Della. "What does Doyle know?" Cole said. "That the map exists, that Nando's wife has it, that I've been writing to Washington." Briggs set down his pen. "He doesn't know the telegraph has already been sent. He thinks he still has time to stop this before it becomes official. Which means he's here to take the map and discourage you from writing further letters," Cole said. "Yes." "Discouragement," Cole said. "Is that what we're calling it?" "That's the polite version," Briggs said. Cole stood up. "You need to stay away from him. Don't give him a conversation to have. He'll use a conversation to learn what he needs to learn and then act on it." "I've been avoiding Cutter Doyle for 2 years," Briggs said mildly. "I'm fairly practiced." Cole went out. The main street of Ridgeback was doing its regular business, but there was a quality to the movement of people that Cole recognized from other times in other places. The particular way ordinary life goes on when something dangerous has entered the room. People walked a little faster, and conversations were shorter. Doors opened and closed with slightly more purpose. Doyle and his 3 men were at the saloon. Cole went to the livery to check on his horse and found Doyle's gray in a stall at the far end. He looked at the saddlebags, but didn't touch them. A man who'd track a woman 11 days across hard country and arrive in a town with 3 hired guns had things in his saddlebags that weren't meant to be found by livery stable owners or visiting ranchers. He went back outside. A woman was sitting on the rain barrel at the corner of the livery. She was wearing a plain dress that was too big for her over her riding clothes, and her hair was down, and she was eating an apple with the calm focus of someone who has nowhere to be. Nobody who looked at her would give her a second look. Cole walked past without stopping. "Doyle's in the saloon," he said, not looking at her. "I know," she said, still eating the apple. "He sent 2 of his men to Briggs' Street this morning. They're watching the house." "I know," Cole said. "The 3rd one is following you. she said. Cole didn't change his stride. Since when? The livery, she said. Cole turned the next corner and stopped and waited. 20 seconds later, a man came around the corner and walked into the barrel of Cole's rifle with a look on his face like a man who has just been shown a magic trick. Hands, Cole said. The man's hands came up. Who told you to follow me? Nobody, the man said. Cole looked at him. The man looked back, a standoff of basic credibility. Go back to the saloon, Cole said. Tell Doyle that whatever he's thinking, there's a federal marshal 2 days out from Santa Fe, and anything that happens in this town in the next 2 days will be examined very carefully by people with the authority to examine it. The man's eyes shifted. I know you don't believe me, Cole said. Go tell him anyway. Let him decide. He lowered the rifle and stepped back. The man walked back around the corner fast without running. Cole went back to the main street. Della was gone from the rain barrel. The apple core was on the ground. He stood in the street and thought about Grover Pell in Tucson and 17 families, and Nando walked slow, cutting a handprint into limestone in a canyon nobody used. And Al Briggs writing letters to Washington for 2 years while the territory rearranged itself around him. 2 days. A lot could go wrong in 2 days. A lot had already gone right that probably shouldn't have. He went to the hotel and got a room that faced the street and sat in the chair by the window and watched Ridgeback through the afternoon into the evening. Doyle came out of the saloon once, looked up and down the street, and went back in. At dusk, Della appeared at Cole's door. She had changed back into her riding clothes. She had a cut on her right hand that was new. One of Doyle's men, she said, before he could ask. He will not be reporting back tonight. Cole looked at the cut. You need that looked at. It's a scratch. There's a doctor on the south end of Maine. She sat down in the other chair. I will go when it's dark. Cole nodded. Outside, the lamps on Main Street came on, one by one. Briggs said the marshal comes tomorrow, she said. Tomorrow evening, he thinks. And then Briggs gives him the map and the letters and the telegraph reply, and it becomes a federal matter, Cole said. Pell's lawyers will fight it. Could take a year, maybe more. But it will exist, she said. It will be written down somewhere that a federal marshal received it. Yes, Cole said. Once it's in that record, Pell can't make it disappear by making people disappear. She was quiet for a while. The lamp oil smell drifted through the window from the street. Nando believed in the writing down, she said. He always said the land could be taken, but a true record of it cannot. A pause. I used to think that was the most naive thing I had ever heard. And now? Cole said. She looked at her hands. Oh, now I have carried his record for 11 days through very bad country, and I am sitting in a hotel room waiting for a federal marshal, she said. So either he was right, or we are both very stubborn people. Cole almost laughed. It surprised him. Probably both, he said. She looked at him then with a directness that had nothing to ask and nothing to perform. Just 2 people in a room at the end of a long run through hard country, with the worst of it almost behind them. Why did you help me? She said. Truly. Cole thought about it. Your husband was a fair man, he said. Fair men don't always get fair outcomes. Somebody ought to try to balance that. She looked at him for a moment longer. Then she nodded once, the kind of nod that closes a conversation without diminishing it. I will go to the doctor now, she said. As I'll walk you, he said. She stood. You do not need to. I know, he said. They went out into the lamplit street together, and the night held quiet around them, and Ridgeback breathed its ordinary breath, and somewhere south of town, a federal marshal was riding through the dark toward a reckoning that 2 years and 11 days and 1 dead fair man had made inevitable. The marshal arrived the following evening, 2 hours before sunset. His name was Calvin Pruitt, and he was not what Cole had expected. Lean, quiet, with the kind of face that filed information without expressing opinions about it. He rode in alone, which either meant he was confident or he was the kind of man who found other men more useful after the situation was understood than before. Cole met him at the edge of town. Pruitt looked at him. "You, Harlan?" "Yes." "Briggs said you'd be the one who could tell me what I'm walking into." Cole told him. Clean, fast, no editorializing. Doyle in the saloon with 2 men, 1 man unaccounted for since the previous evening, the map in Briggs's possession, the telegraph reply from the land office in Washington confirming the inquiry was active. Pruitt listened without interrupting. At the end he said, "Della walks slow. Where is she?" "Around," Cole said. Pruitt's expression did not change. "She is a material witness in a federal land fraud investigation. I need her available." "She'll be available," Cole said. "She came 11 days through hard country to make sure of it." Pruitt looked at him for a moment. "All right." He dismounted. "Let's go see Briggs." They went to Briggs's house. Briggs had the map on the table and the letters in a leather folder tied with cord and the telegraph reply on top of the whole stack like a hat. He had also made coffee, which Cole thought was the most civilized thing that had happened in 4 days. Pruitt sat down and went through every document with the methodical patience of a man who has learned that what looks like a detail is sometimes the whole case. He asked questions. Briggs answered them. Cole sat by the door. After an hour, Pruitt straightened up. "This is enough," he said. "The land filings alone are criminal. The deaths associated with the cleared properties will open a separate inquiry." He looked at the map. Nando Walks Slow did extraordinary work. "Yes," Cole said. "Where is Doyle now?" Pruitt said. "Saloon, as of 2 hours ago," Cole said. "If he's heard you arrived, he may have made different plans." "Let's find out," Pruitt said. They went to the saloon. Cole went first. Old habit. The room was doing its evening business, full and loud. And Doyle was at the bar with one of his men, the 2-fingered hand wrapped around a glass, watching the door in the flat professional way of a man who has been watching doors for a living. Cole walked to the bar and stood 3 feet from Doyle and ordered water, which was an unusual order in a saloon and made the barkeep raise an eyebrow. Doyle looked at Cole. Cole looked at Doyle. "Harlan," Doyle said. His voice was medium, not threatening, not friendly, a working voice. "Doyle," Cole said. "You've been a problem," Doyle said. "I've been a rancher minding his fence line," Cole said. "Things came to me." "Things," Doyle said. Pruitt walked in behind Cole. He didn't announce himself. He simply stood inside the door with his badge visible on his coat and let the room become aware of him in the natural way rooms become aware of things that change the weight of the air. Doyle saw the badge. His hand came off his glass slowly. "Cutter Doyle," Pruitt said, not loud. "Federal warrant for your arrest. Land fraud, conspiracy, and associated charges under the Territorial Land Act." He paused. "Your employer, Grover Pell, has a matching warrant being served in Tucson right now." The room had gone quiet. The particular saloon quiet where everyone is still holding their drink, but nobody is drinking. Doyle's man beside him moved a hand toward his hip. "Don't," Cole said. He was watching the man. "Just don't. Think about what happens after, and then don't." The man's hand stopped. Doyle turned on his stool and looked at Pruitt for a long, steady moment. Cole could see the calculation behind his eyes. The same calculation Cole had seen in other men in other tight places. How many ways out? What do they cost? What's already gone? Doyle stood up, took his hands away from his sides. "All right," he said. Pruitt crossed the room, and Doyle did not resist. And the room breathed again, slowly, like a chest expanding after a long-held breath. Cole set down his untouched water and walked out. Della was in the street. She was not hiding or pretending. She stood at the rail with her arms at her sides and her face open in the way faces go when something that has been coiled tight for a long time is slowly releasing. Cole stood beside her. Pruitt brought Doyle out a minute later and handed him to a deputy who had apparently been waiting by the livery, which explained why Pruitt had come in alone. He had not come in alone. He had come in appearing alone. Cole appreciated the craft of it. Doyle walked past Della without looking at her. She watched him go the way a person watches weather, not with hate, with the particular attention of someone who needs to know that the storm is actually passing. It passed. Pruitt came to stand with them. "She'll need to make a statement," he said to Cole. "Probably in Tucson. Could be a month out before the hearing." "She knows," Cole said. Pruitt looked at Della. "Ma'am, on behalf of the federal government, I want you to know that Nando Walk Slow's record has been formally received and entered into the inquiry. His name will be part of the official filing." Della said nothing for a moment. "It will be written down," she said. "Yes, ma'am," Pruitt said. "It will." She looked out at the end of the main street where the road went south and west into the open country. The sky above the mesa was going purple, and the first stars were showing in the east. Cole looked too. It was the kind of sky that asks nothing and promises nothing, and simply continues being enormous overhead, no matter what happens below it. After a while, Briggs came out of the saloon with his coffee mug still in his hand, which was either distraction or an announcement that he was done hiding in his house. He stood on the other side of Della, and the four of them stood in a line, looking at the sky. "What will you do now?" Cole asked Della. She thought about it. "The hearing," she said. And then, a pause. "I haven't thought past the hearing in 11 days. "Don't have to," Cole said. "One thing at a time." She looked at him. "You could stay at the Cantera place while the hearing is organized," he said. "It's not comfortable, but it's shelter and there's grain for your horse." She looked at him for a moment. Something in her face was working quietly, the way a fire works when it's low and steady and not performing for anyone. "I will think about it," she said. Cole nodded. Across the street, someone had started playing a fiddle in the saloon, a slow, threading tune that wound out through the door and into the evening air and meant nothing except that life intended to continue. Briggs drank his coffee. Pruitt made a note in a small book. Della looked at the first stars. Cole looked at the road back west, the 11 miles of it between here and the Cantera place, and thought about fence posts and water troughs and the way a horse sounds when it finally feels safe, and thought that some kinds of accounting take a long time to settle, and some things that look like luck are actually just two people who showed up on the same side of a fence at the right moment. He didn't say any of that. He didn't need to. The fiddle played on, and the night came down soft and complete over the town of Ridgeback and the country around it, and somewhere in a canyon to the west, cut into pale limestone at chest height, a handprint held its shape in the dark, patient and exact, the way true things do.